Hi everyone, my name is Shishir Nigam and welcome to our channel Journey to Freedom, where you can follow along on our journey to financial freedom through the worlds of Shopify and dropshipping. So make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bells so that you get to know every single time we put out a valuable new video. Today we're going to be talking about Facebook ads testing strategy. Now this is a topic that's been demanded by almost all of you in the last few weeks, so here it is. Let's dive straight into it. Make sure you stay till the end of the video so that you can catch all the tips on how to test your new products effectively for your own dropshipping store. And I will even be suggesting a product that you can test with, an actual dropshipping product that you can try out for yourself. So make sure you stay till the end of the video. Let's dive straight into it. So Facebook ads, testing strategy. Now this, as I mentioned, is going to be a step-by-step tutorial that will cover everything that you need to know about how to test a brand new product that you're thinking of launching on your store. Now this assumes that you already have a good product in mind, you already have a product description in place for it, so everything on your website end is already done, and you are now ready to test the product with live Facebook ads. Okay, so we will be creating a separate product research video that touches on the first aspect of that process, which is how to find a product in the first place that is worth testing. But make sure you stay tuned for that one that's coming up soon. All right. Now, here is an example product that I was mentioning. So this is a hanging trash bag holder. It's a problem-solving product. It's a kitchen item that can be commonly used. Now let me open up a few of these links here, which you can also look at for yourself. I'll navigate to these. So this is the AliExpress listing for this particular product. As you can see, this is the whole function of this product is to serve as an easy way for people using the kitchen to dispose of their items, any garbage that they need to throw away. Otherwise, you would have to go to the dustbin or garbage to dispose of those items. Here you can literally just swipe them off the countertop and you're putting them in the garbage bag. So this is the AliExpress listing for it. You can see it has a decent number of orders. It has a good rating of 4.8 from 364 reviews, which is all a good sign. So I won't again dive too much into the logic behind picking a product like this for testing, but obviously these are all good signs that people are leaving good reviews. You can see that on Facebook there are existing video ads for it. People are testing this product as well. On Amazon you can find the product that is listed as well. And again, it has a whole lot of high ratings on Amazon as well. So all of these are good signs that should help you to decide whether you should test your product or not. Another common question that comes up is, hey, if Amazon already has so many people buying from it, then should I even bother testing it? Why wouldn't people just buy from Amazon? Now here's the key thing. You will always lose a certain percentage of your customers to people who are wanting to do comparisons between websites and Amazon. You cannot avoid that. So I actually look at Amazon as a way to reinforce the fact that the quality of the product is actually good. Sometimes the reviews on AliExpress are not as reliable, but definitely the ones on Amazon are. So if people have left good reviews on Amazon, then that's a good sign that the product is of a good quality. Now coming back to our topic here, which is the actual ad strategy. Now, once you've figured out which product to test and you've written up a good product description on that, again, that's something that I'll be dropping a video on very soon, so make sure you stay tuned. Then the next step is, how do you structure your testing campaign on Facebook? So here's a good visual that should be helpful. So let's say this is the product campaign that you're trying to create. Now what our experience has been that you want to test at least 3 to 5 different interest groups and ad sets for any one new product, so that you're giving it ample room to play out. You're giving Facebook enough room to test different audiences and different scenarios. So don't just go with one ad set and hope that you strike the lottery, because then you're leaving too many things to chance. Even if you may have a good product, but you're only testing it with one particular audience, that may be the wrong audience, right? So even though you may have a good product, you're testing it in the wrong audience, and then you get essentially what is a false negative. You get results which are not good enough, but it's actually because you didn't test in the right audience, not because your product was bad. So that's why we try to eliminate as many variables as possible. So we try to advise that you should test 3 to 4 different ad sets with different interest groups in each one. Now, what kind of interests? So you want to test interests which are, first of all, broad in nature, but you should also test some which are narrow. So again, don't leave anything to chance. Regardless of what many other YouTubers may be telling you, there's no one recipe. That's what our experience has been. Some things will work for some products, some things will not work for another product. So you literally have to test it out for every new product that you test. So test out a broad audience, test out another one which is broad, then try out a narrow, much more targeted audience as well to see if that works any better. And then a fourth one where you're actually combining all of these interests into one. And that may feel a bit illogical, but off late, we've been finding that the Facebook algorithm has been preferring larger audiences to smaller ones. So there's no harm in having an extra ad set here where you're just combining all of these interests. And if it works for you, then you know that's the one to scale up next time. Now, within each ad set, you want to have at least 2 to 3 different creatives that you're testing. Now, this is another key point here. Don't just go with one particular ad creative, because again, that ad creative may not resonate with the audience that you're targeting. So the whole idea is you want to give Facebook as many options to play with as possible. If Facebook has a lot of permutations and combinations to play with, the more likely it is that it will find the right pool of audience that will say yes to the product. So when testing a product, again, try to go with at least 2 to 3 different creatives in each ad set, and then duplicate them under each ad set, of course. So let me dive into our ads manager now and show you a live situation of how this testing campaign will get created for this sample product that I was mentioning. So this hanging trash bag holder, how would we go about creating a sample page for it? So first of all, we start here. This is a basic sample ad account that I've created here, which has some history. Then I'll explain that to you later on. So we would go into a new campaign creation. Let's start over. Campaign objective. So what do you want to choose when you're testing for a brand new product? You want to choose conversions. Don't choose traffic. Don't choose any engagement ads at this stage, because you want to target people who are looking to purchase. Okay, you don't just want to drive traffic to your store. You want people who are converting. So let's choose conversions. Let's just write the name here, hanging trash bag holder, and then I'm just targeting cold interests over here. So CBO, let's leave this off for now. Sooner, rather than later, you may not actually have the option to turn it off, but for now you do. So let's not turn it on for now, okay? And I have a few tips later that will help you in the scenario that CBO is compulsory for you. How should you do it then? But for now, let's stick with ad set level budgets. So coming to the next page, what is the conversion event that you want? Make sure you pick the purchase conversion event. Again, this is an area that we have spent a lot of money to test and learn for ourselves. We heard many times people suggesting that, hey, you should not choose a conversion event where you don't have enough events that are happening in your conversion window. So start with view content, or start with add to cart, or start with initiate checkout. And in our experience, that has not worked for us personally, because Facebook sends you the traffic that you're asking for. There's a distinction between people who are likely to purchase and people who are likely to just come and browse your site and leave. And Facebook knows that. So if you ask for people who are just wanting to view content, which means just visit your page, then that's what Facebook will give you. People who just browse and then leave, and not the ones who have a purchase intent. So right from the get-go, let's make sure that we're telling Facebook what we want, and that is that we want purchasers. So the conversion is set to purchase. Now let's come down over here. Now this is where you will set your location audience. Now typically in my case, whenever I'm testing for new products, I'll target the big 4 countries. So I'll say Canada, United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. And you can also start just with the United States, for example. That's a fairly large size market as well. And there's no harm only starting with the United States. I start with all 4 countries right from the get-go. Now, this particular item here, people living in or recently in this location, I changed this default option to people who are living in this location. Why? Because I'm not really concerned with people who are recently in the US, for example. They may have just been traveling, right? People, when they're traveling, they're not exactly, buying things and getting it delivered to their home back in Canada. It doesn't work that way most of the time. So I want to target people who are actually living in these countries. Now, coming down here, so the age, this typically I would leave this broad as possible. But in our case, because of the kind of product that we're targeting, the hanging trash bag holder, you would generally be targeting a higher, older demographic. So I would say 25 and up, people who usually, either have a home already or have an apartment of their own. So they have a kitchen, they're cooking. Usually 18-year-olds are not cooking for themselves. So, in this case, we'll target 25 plus. Men, women, I'll leave it to all. Again, unless a product is very targeted towards a particular gender, leave it open. Language, we want to target obviously the English speakers who are able to understand the advertisement. Now coming to interests, this is where we want to identify which interest groups you want to test. Now let's uncheck this expand box because we don't want Facebook to automatically go beyond the interest group that we are specifying, because then you don't know which interest worked for you, right? As if the expansion box is checked off. So uncheck it for now. And then now let's come to the targeting. So let's say we're looking at this particular product here. What kind of interest groups would you target? And this is where you have to start imagining and getting some creativity into the game. So you're obviously targeting, let's say housewives, right? Because people who are cooking at home a lot and who always are day in, day out in the kitchen want that convenience of the product that you're trying to sell. So if you just type in housewife, that may not really, give you anything very useful. These are pretty small interest groups. But think of other items. Think of other things that would be common interest, right? So let's say cooking. Yeah. So there you go. This is a much broader interest group, right? So cooking would be a good interest to test with for a product like this. So people who have an interest in cooking. So let's start with that, and we'll develop some other ones down the road. Placements. It does say recommended. Usually I will choose manual. I will uncheck everything except for Facebook newsfeed and Instagram feed, because in our experience, again, that is where the most conversions typically come in. So in the testing phase, I want it to be much more targeted. Later on, when I'm scaling or I'm retargeting, I may allow it for automatic placements so that it shows up everywhere. But in a testing phase, I want it to only show on the most productive placements. Now, coming down further, optimization, we want to optimize for conversions. Cost control, let's not worry about this for now. This is something called manual bidding, and that's something really that comes in only when you're scaling later on. So look out for that later on. Daily budget, so this is where you set a daily budget, and I'll touch on how much you should be setting for each ad set when you're testing. But let's leave it at 20 for now. run my ad set. So typically I'll set a future date so that everything gets approved and scheduled, and then everything starts in the same time. Conversion window, this refers to how long you expect the purchase cycle to be for your average customer. So it's okay to leave it at 7 days click or 1 day view. And again, ignore this warning. So this is for your ad set level settings. Now let's get to the creative. So come in here. Now this is where you would want to set up your ad creative. So let's say for now we are creating a picture ad, an image ad for this particular campaign. So let's just save this this picture, for example, and use this then as a creative. Okay, so let's come back to our ads manager. So we'll say add media, add image, upload image. Continue. There you go. So this is the image that you have now uploaded to the ad, and now we have to fill out the rest of the information here. So let's just use the headline can just be, let's just use first of all this as a destination. Obviously this is where you want to put in your actual Shopify store, not just any random website. And then in the headlines we can create the name. You would want the name here, hanging trash bag holder. Then you can say, 30% off or whatever offer you have going on. And then you want to have a short headline over here. So let's come up with the primary text here, which will be the ad copy on top. So let's just write something like no more dirty countertops. Keep your kitchen clean. Or actually, no more long trips to the garbage bin. Keep your kitchen clean. Keep your countertops clean. There you go. Okay, and no more long trips to the kitchen bin. So let's put in a few emojis over here so that we make it a bit more colorful and attention grabbing. Let's come back to our ads manager. So let's just see if there's anything for, I think this can be a nice one. Keep the home clean. Now you'll note that Facebook only allows you, it only shows the top 3 lines in your ad copy, so you have to be very careful of what actually shows up in here. You can have a much longer ad copy, but it'll just create a see more button. So you have to understand what actually shows up to the user before they click the see more. And then usually at the end of it, I will have a small tick with the actual link to the product. So in this case, let's just say we're using this particular product here. So you can see how the see more comes in. So usually I'll try to shorten my links such that it comes up in one line. Obviously, make sure you're not using the Amazon link, but use your actual Shopify store link. Down here, this I leave out blank. Call to action should be shop now, of course. And then typically over here also I'll add a few emojis just to make the headline a bit more attention grabbing. Now, another key point here is recently Facebook has started cracking down on the use of the star emoji. So previously many people would try to use the stars and put in a 5-star to indicate that the product has 5-star reviews. don't do that anymore. Various different Facebook ad experts have advised against it now, because Facebook will penalize your ad if you're using those star emojis in your ads now. So let's avoid that going forward. So you can see this is a semi-decent ad here. Could be better obviously in terms of the copy, but as an example, this is good enough. So one more thing that you can do over here is in the title, in the heading, you can give it a bit of a branding, not just a generic name. So just something as simple as chick kitchen trends. So just something simple like that ends up looking like a brand name. So it gives a bit more a bit more sophistication to the product that you're trying to sell. So the same link here you want to place at the bottom, as I mentioned. Let's just say, and try to keep it to one line over here. There we go. So this is a decent shape, decent ad creative here that you can test with. And now as you go to the next step, let's just quickly check all of our other settings here. So our pixel is fine, basic, all links are fine here. Going back to the ad creative, ad set, let's just name our ad properly, ad set properly. US, UK, Australia, we're targeting 25 plus. And then this interest is for cooking, we said. And then in our ad, I like to give the names here. So I'll say this is an image ad with copy 1, with this copy version and this heading version. So let's just publish this for now, and then we'll create the other duplicates that I've suggested. So once this gets confirmed, give it a little bit here. All right, so now let's go back in here, and this is where I was mentioning that you want to have 2 to 3 different creatives that you want to test. So for example, we'll create two copies here, and then what you want to do is vary either the image or the copy or the headings. One of the elements here you want to vary, and then be able to test that different variable. So let's just say we want to test different copy and different headings. Okay, so here we want the same one. Okay, got it. So here, let's just vary the heading. Let's say instead of giving the product name, we make this the heading. Keep those kitchen countertops clean. So the value proposition, we make that the heading, right? And we give that a shot. We use that to test a different angle and different creative. Here, we want to use, again, we want to use heading number 2. And we also want to change the copy. So maybe reverse the order. So they need not be such minor changes, obviously. Try to make them a bit more comprehensive. Think about it a bit more. But as an example, this is what I mean when I say that you want to have different types of creatives. You may even want to employ different types of media altogether. So this is just a static image ad. You can have a carousel ad as a variable. You can have a video ad as a variable, right? You can have, if you have a video ad, you can change the thumbnail in different types of creatives. So all of those are different permutation and combinations that you can try in your testing phase for a particular product. So let's publish these 2 different creatives, and then we can go on and create a duplicate of the ad set as a whole, which will now then carry the 3 ad sets along with it. So now we are creating the multiple ad sets. So as mentioned, we want to create this sort of a structure in our testing campaign. So let's duplicate this 3 times. Number of copies. Duplicate. So this is now where we're going to create the different interests that we're looking to target. So let's start here. And an easy way to brainstorm new interest groups is just by clicking on the suggestions button. So cooking, we tried another broad one. Obviously we can try is recipes, right? So eliminate the old one, change the heading here to recipes. Come back to now let's go to the third ad set. Third ad set, we said we should try a narrow one, right? So let's try, so there's a cooking channel, right? And that is a much more specific interest group. Food network, let's say. So food network is still quite broad. Cooking channel, there we go. I was looking for this one. So people who are interested in the cooking channel would be very much into cooking, obviously. So this is a much more narrow interest group that I'm targeting to test. So let's put cooking channel, and then finally up here we're gonna put in, this will be all of the three combined. So cooking channel plus cooking plus recipes. So this will be a very broad one that will test everything. Recipes and cooking channel. There we go. So this is our big broad one. And then now let's select all three and hit publish. So what we've done here is we've created 4 different ad sets now, and you can see the different countries that we're targeting for each one. And each ad set has 3 different ads inside it. Now here's what you can do. So coming to the budget settings now, and I'll show you some pointers on this later on, but ideally you want to have your ad set budget such that if you split it, it will come to about $5 per ad creative inside each ad set. So if you use that math, then ideally with 3 ad creatives, you want to have a minimum of $15 budget for each ad set. So you end up with a total combined budget of $60 per day to test this new product. So this is a quick and brief summary of how you can test, how you can set up your campaigns to test a brand new product. So let's get back to our slideshow quickly and cover off the remainder. So as I was mentioning, for budgeting, you want to allocate about $5 per ad creative and then just add that up to the higher levels to understand what your budget should be at the ad set level. Now, if your ad manager is saying that CBOs are mandatory, campaign budget optimization is compulsory for you, then basically just add up the ad set level budgets and place them at the CBO level. So in our case, for example, we have $15 per ad set. Add that up all the way through the ad sets, you have $60 in total. So make that $60 as the CBO daily budget. And then you can assign a minimum spend at the ad set level to ensure that the test is even. So Facebook doesn't just dump the entire budget into one particular ad set. You have a bit of even testing going on through the different interests, and then you can decide which one to scale up further, right? My recommendation is, if you have the ability, don't start with CBOs when you're testing a new product. Use it when you're scaling, but not when you're testing if you have the option. Now, here's the important part. So now you have a campaign that's all set. What do you then do to monitor that? How do you monitor progress of your testing campaign? So here are some of the key metrics that you have to look at. What is the click-through rate? That will tell you what is the effectiveness of your ad creative. And I'll go through a live example of a test product that I had tried on some time ago. What is the cost per click? That will give you an indication of how much competition there is in that niche and how effective your ad is at driving traffic. What is the cost per add to cart? This is indicative of the effectiveness of your product page and basically how convincing the overall value proposition is. Is it too expensive for the amount of value the product is providing? Is it good enough. That's essentially what it tells you. And then finally, your return on ad spend is the main overall metric that determines your profitability for that product. So that's, at the end of the day, you have to look at what your break-even return on ad spend is. So what is a break-even return on ad spend? So I have a small formula here that should be useful. The break-even ROAS is basically your retail price of the product divided by your profit margin. Okay, so for example, let's say this hanging trash bag holder. Let's go back to our AliExpress. Let's say the cost of this after shipping is about $5. Okay, for example, you choose to sell it at $20, right? So if you're selling it at 20 and your cost is 5, so your profit margin is $15, right? Your retail price is $20. So your break-even ROAS is going to be 20 divided by 15, so about 1.33. So what that means is if your return on ad spend is above 1.33, it means you are profitable. If it's below that, it means you're losing money, okay? So that should be ultimately the main metric that you look at to evaluate the success of your product. Now, let's go back here. Now, let me give you a live example of a case where we were testing a particular product in this ad account. So you can see this scenario here. We tested this product some time back. We spent about $200 in total to test the product. As you can see, we had 3 different interest groups that we were testing in this case. The budgets, we changed them later on, but let's analyze the metrics here. Each ad set had 3 different ad creatives within it. Now, coming to the ad metrics. So let's look at this. This first interest number 1, we ended up spending more than $100 on it. And you can see that our click-through rate for all the ad sets is above 3%, right? So that's a good indication of whether your ad is effective or not. Anything above 3% is fairly decent. If you're seeing click-through rates which are less than 1%, then that's not a good sign. It means that you have to improve your ad creative, okay? So if you're seeing healthy CTRs, then that's a good starting point. It means your creatives are getting a good click-through rate. Secondly, the cost per click. Again, if you have a cost per click less than $1, then that's a good sign. Anything more than $1, it means you need to work on either the product or the ad itself. Cost per add to cart. So this is a good metric to use, especially if you're dealing with a higher ticket item or you have smaller budgets, so you're not actually getting enough purchases to know, to analyze your data properly. That's when your add to carts come into play. So as you can see in our ad spend here, interest number 1 generated 2 purchases at the end of the day, with a cost of add to cart which was about $26. This one had an even lower cost of add to cart, and then interest number 3 had the highest. So I actually use this metric the most to give me an indication of which ad set I should turn off and turn on or leave on. So you can see in this case that interest number 3 is the one that we turned off after about 2 days or 3 days of ad spend, because it was yielding a very high cost of add to cart. So that tells you when you should turn off your ad and not try to sink more money into that particular interest group. Now, in this case, overall, our return on ad spend was not profitable. We had one particular interest which was profitable, but again, not by a big margin, right? So even after spending $200, our overall ROAS was only 0.6. So that gives you an indication that, it wasn't a good fit. So even though you tested different creatives, you tested different interests, this was my personal cutoff of when I decided to move on to the next product. And this is something very subjective. It depends on what your budget is, how comfortable you are taking risks, and how much time you want to invest into each product to test it, okay? So coming back to some tips here, which you want to know to understand how to test effectively. So the key tips here are that you need to know your budget. You need to know when to cut off, okay? That's very important because you don't want to go down that rabbit hole where you become very attached to the product and you feel like, no, it will turn around. I just have to pump in more money, it will turn around. No, don't do that because that's a sure way to lose money. You need to know, okay, mentally I will spend $100 or $200 or $300, whatever the number might be. You need to move on to the next product once you hit that cutoff, okay? And the main thing is that you need to have that investment mentality. I have not lost $200 when I tested that product. I just found another product that I was lucky not to waste more money on, right? I found one more thing. I eliminated one more product that is not working for me. So you need to have that investment mentality that anything that you invest by way of testing is a way to learn what works and what doesn't work in the marketplace. So have that mentality. Test as many creatives as possible, as I mentioned. Eliminate that variable that your ads are not working because of the type of creative that you're using. So add different types of creatives. Image ads, carousel ads, video ads, slideshow ads. Test all of these variables at the same time because Facebook can allocate based on what's working for you. Another key point here is try not to make a decision on a particular ad set before you have touched 1,000 and 2,000 impressions for that ad set, because that's roughly when you know that you have enough data to make a call without really guessing. So allow enough ad spend for each ad set to have 1,000, 2,000 impressions completed before you make a call. As I mentioned, be unemotional, don't get attached to the product. In our case, when we got started, we had to go through 15, 20, 25 products before we really landed on a product that was working well for us. So be ready and be patient through that process. And finally, use your data to make the decisions, not your emotions, all right? So I hope that's been very helpful for you to help structure some of your testing campaigns. If you found some value in that content, again, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bells, and join our Facebook group, which has been very active of late. You'll find the link down below in the description. Join our Facebook group to learn from other people who are following along with our channel and following along on our journey. So stay tuned to the next video and we'll see you in the next one.